Hello everybody, and welcome to DungeonFog. That's right. A while back, I mentioned that I was a stream partner for DungeonFog, and having done a slew of tutorial videos on their old interface, seemingly years ago by this point. So I thought to myself, in order to give you guys sort of a look into where DungeonFog was, but more importantly where DungeonFog is, and a little bit into the insight into where it's going, we're going to look at DungeonFog a little bit more closely, again, as they've done a lot of changes to their dashboard pages. A lot of their website has been updated with new sleek looks, as you can see right here, but more importantly, the editor has undergone a massive overhaul with a brand new version. So you might see a bunch of my old tutorial videos still on the channel, and for posterity, I will keep them there, but rest assured that what you're seeing in those videos is far outdated to what we're looking at now. For those of you who are not following me over on my Twitch channel, I go live right now every Thursday evening around 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time over at twitch.tv/EsquireVT. Would love to have you guys over there as we are currently playing through Ori and the Blind Forest. So great way to check out and interact with me in a more live setting. But of course, if you guys are not subscribed to the channel already, you can hit the sub button down below, as well as hitting the bell icon for notifications so when a new video gets posted, you guys will be updated as to when that happens. If you have any questions specifically for DungeonFog, you can always drop them down in the comments below as well. So stick with me, guys, because we're going to be breaking through into some brand new DungeonFog tutorial content for you starting now. So by heading over to DungeonFog.com, or looking through DungeonFog through your web browser search bar, that'll bring you to a login page. Now, I've already bypassed the login page because I have an account. I have an account with them for several years now. So you'll notice on the top right-hand corner that I have a little crown on the top of my avatar picture. That means that I am paying for a premium access, which means that I will not have any of my assets watermarked. Anything that's DungeonFog specific will not be watermarked. I have a little bit more extra storage space on my internal storage with their servers for my maps, and more importantly, access to a lot of premier assets that might otherwise be locked behind a regular free access. But I do want to make mention that DungeonFog is completely free. You do not have to spend any money to use DungeonFog. You don't have to spend any money to actually get any of the features for DungeonFog. So if you made a free account, you have access to all of their features. All right, so inside the editor, the campaign mode, all this other stuff that we're going to be talking about down the line, you have access to all of that with a free account. Don't worry. All right, so after you set up your account, you can then dive into whether or not you actually want to pay for the services or not. Again, I am, but it's not a requirement. After you load in, you'll be brought into your dashboard page. Now, this is sort of the default landing page where DungeonFog can really start taking you in various different directions. Not going to spend too much time here. Mostly this is just going to be a departure point for where we're going to be going when we look at getting into the editor. But of course, if you needed to see, you can go to your dashboard section for your maps that you've created, any campaigns that you're currently running on their campaign maker, your assets, which is not necessarily anything that you've made particularly, but could be, but also assets that you've purchased through their marketplace, which is down here. Pricing if you're looking at trying to get into various types of payments for DungeonFog and its various services. Or specifically, the commercial license would be one that you might be interested in if you're looking at doing dungeon maps for books that you can sell, or looking to make maps on an Etsy or Patreon or something like that. Anything that you can generate an income from, you'll definitely want to get the commercial license for that, and that's going to be where you go to find out about exactly how that all shakes down. Help desk, Discord, they have a wonderful Discord server as well. Lots of helpful people within that Discord community. They've got a great community. They also stream, I believe, Tuesdays and Thursdays as well over on their DungeonFog channel on Twitch as well, so you can always go and check them out over there. Help desk, tutorials, they do have a tutorial section now. As I mentioned, I used to be their tutorial guy way back when, but life being as what it is kind of prevented me from continuing onwards with that. So they brought in another guy, How to Be a Great GM, has been doing their tutorials, and you can see all the tutorials that he's done on the platform. It's phenomenal. You can go check out his YouTube channel as well. phenomenal resource if you ever want to learn how to do GMing, if you want to be a GM, game master, whatever you want to do. He's got a slew of videos that'll tell you exactly how to go about doing that, things that you want to consider. We're going to be looking at DungeonFog as a zone thing, and we're not going to really delve too much beyond that, but you'll see with this engine, there's a lot of stuff that you could do, and you're not limited to just the high fantasy Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder veins. There's going to be a lot of stuff that we can do with this in the various asset packs that are available. From here, we are going to be looking at creating a new map. So we're going to do that. Boop. And we're going to see this pop up. Now, this is far more impressive than what it was when I was making my tutorial videos early on. So we can always look into the map presets here. Default, if you want it 16:9 for screens and TVs, prints, various formats there. I usually keep it small, 15:15, but you can see over here that we can actually adjust that size. We'll do that in just a second. Then we get to check our preset level as the base level. So I'm not going to dive into too much of it right now, just to not complicate things, but DungeonFog at a very base level works in levels, as in a base level and then various levels on top of that as you're putting things on top of your base platform. So we're going to start with something meadow. Nice and easy. You can go meadow, meadow trails, or meadow cliffs. So the couple of presets here that we can look at, we're just going to go with a basic meadow, something like that. At 20:20, that's a pretty decent map. But if we wanted to, we could always go back to our empty map, change our grid size here in units, 15:15, resulting in a map of 1050 pixels. Without getting into too much of the mathematics behind pixels, essentially the higher the pixel number, the smaller your map is going to be when you're loading it in, which means the more you have to zoom in to be able to see it. So I don't play around too much with this, and you can play around with it on your own as well if you think that you're going to get any benefit out of that. But if you're looking at just diving in and basically making a very, very basic map for players or for yourself just to get used to the platform and how it works, we are going to stick with a preset of 20:20. So we're going to go down to our meadow again. We're going to click that. We're going to go to our meadow, which is going to be defaulted to 20:20 units. We're going to click that. We're going to change the map name, not to Meadow 1. This is going to be Travel Lodge. We're going to open that in the editor. All right, so now that we have loaded up into the editor, this is going to be very useful to you down here. Your shortcuts, these are all your keybinds that are preloaded into DungeonFog. Now, I know that this isn't specifically something that we're going to be covering in full detail in this video, but for purposes of, you're going to see me whipping around a little bit here because I remember the shortcuts. So if you need a refresher or you'd want a examination into how all the different shortcuts work, this is going to be where you're going to want to start. So you're going to want to look at all of these different shortcuts, familiarize yourselves with them as much as you can, as much as you need to. They're there for your benefit, but not required to use them, as many of these things that you can do just by clicking on the appropriate tool on the right hand side of the editor as well. So what we're going to do is we're just going to scroll out by pressing Control, and I'm going to tilt the scroll wheel down to zoom me back out to about 40%. I could also do so manually by changing it up here, either by using the plus or the minus here, or manually changing the percentage in the top right hand corner at the very top of your tool bar on the right hand side. You can see that we're also defaulted to the editor. We're going to worry about GM notes, exports, and campaigns at a later time, so do not worry about those right now. We're going to stick to the editor until we are ready to actually start tackling those tools in more detail. So we can either hit the number 2 button, which will bring us to our Draw Rooms tab, or you can click on the 3-dimensional isometric square over here, and that is going to bring us over into our Drawing Rooms tool. What we want to start with first is choosing our wall type. So there are various ways that we can adjust and augment the type of wall that we are going to be using. We're going to be sticking into normal. We'll delve into the wall types in the next video, where we start looking into how you can actually customize and edit your wall structure, appearance, and function. But for now, we'll worry about just working within the normal wall type so that we can get a basic room drawn so you can see exactly how everything interacts with the map as we have it right now. From there, we're going to look at our floor. So what this means is whenever we're done completing a series of wall segments, the program will automatically close off that segment and then create a floor. So what we want to do first is we want to see what our floor is going to look like. We have the color tool here where we can actually change the color of the floor itself. We also have the change color down here where we can change the hue, saturation, and brightness. We'll get into the color augmentation a little bit later in another video as well, because there's a lot of moving parts with how color works. So we'll save that for when we talk about our brush strokes, because we're going to use color a lot. Then we can circle back and see how color impacts your assets. When we're ready to choose what kind of floor we have the old parquet as our standard. We can actually click on that and it'll give us a whole list of various textures that we can use. Once you have selected your texture type, what will happen here is it will appear over in the box and it will replace any asset or texture pack that is in this square here. Right? We can change its rotation as well, and we should be able to see it actively change on that square as well. So let's maybe go 75%, and you can see that the texture actually will turn as we are dictating what percentage it should either be scaled to or what degree that texture should be rotated to. So 0%, it's nice and horizontal. We could also go 100%, which means it's almost vertical. But remember, this is based on degrees, so it's not actually going to be, if we wanted something straight up, we can go 90 degrees, and now it is completely vertical, opposite of what it was horizontal. So you can have a little bit of fun with the scaling and the rotation there. It's all available to you. Again, we can change our color. You'll also see that there are little Dopplers here too. We're going to look at that when we do the brush tool as well. That way we cover kind of all of our coloring mechanics in one shot, so just not to confuse. Again, we're going to be looking at just building a very basic room at this point. Now that we have our floor selected, now let's actually look at the wall. So here we can start getting into a little bit more interesting stuff here. So we're going to back out to go to our all packs. As with the floor, we can change the rotation and the scaling as we see fit. We can also change the color as we'd like. However, we are going to leave it as such for today. So once we have our floor texture selected, once we have our wall texture selected, we are ready to actually place our wall down and draw our room. For those of you who are new to D&D, essentially one square is 5 feet, right? So 4 squares in this case is 20 feet. So let's build our first wall here. So we're gonna left click to get our point started. Then we're gonna drag, and then we're gonna left click to create our first wall. Creates a point, an anchor point specifically. So now that that anchor point is made, you can see that this red line is now being drawn from that point on the right hand side of the map. So we're going to come all the way down to the very bottom. We're going to click there. Now it's, you can see now we've got a few points. Now we've got a triangle made. So now you can start seeing where the floor is actually going to start coming in and how it's going to look. So technically, now that I have a third point made, I could technically close this off and make a triangle. And now you can see how all of a sudden, now that we've completed all of our walls, now the floor automatically gets generated to fill in the gap that we have drawn out from the walls that we have created. Now, I don't necessarily like the size of the wood. I'm going to come down to my scaling over here. I'm going to just highlight that, and let's maybe drop it down to about 50% or so. A little too small for my liking. Maybe 65%. Perfect. Look at that. And then we can just click off the map anywhere, either outside of the map or anywhere on the map itself. And then it just clears off all those highlighted segments for us. And now we can see very clearly that the size of the scaling for the wood floor that we created when we finished drawing our maps has actually shrunk down, and you can change it on the fly based on how you feel the texture looks in the map that you're making. So nothing is hard set whenever you actually place it down on the map. You always have the ability to change the rotation and the scaling and the color at any point in time. Nothing is fixated, which is great. Having that kind of flexibility within a program already is awesome. So now that we have that all sorted out, let's go back to our select tool really quickly here, and let's just highlight this. We're going to come down to our style, and we're going to go for an outer thickness, and let's maybe change that to like, well, 15, and hit enter on that. Ah, you see how now all of a sudden everything on the outside has extended further out? That is because we have told DungeonFog to make the outer walls thicker. And suddenly you can see the brick walls extending. We're going to just select that one more time. Click on that. We're going to come down to our inner thickness. And let's make that about an 8. Let's just double up on the inside. So guys, thank you so much for watching the video today. I really appreciate you guys coming out. If you guys are able to hit the subscribe button down below, that'd be greatly appreciated. If you guys want to follow me over on my Twitch channel, you can hit me up over on twitch.tv/EsquireVT. I do appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.